Welcome to the NFP Podcast, where we explore the empowering world of natural family planning. I'm Amy Smith. Join me and my co-host Emily Appeldorn each week. Together, we're here to dive deep into the science, the stories, and the spirituality behind NFP. Every week, we push back against the free love culture and advocate for a culture of responsible love, where intentionality and respect are at the forefront of family planning. Join us as we discuss everything from the practicalities of charting and fertility awareness to the profound impact NFP can have on relationships and communities. Whether you're new to NFP or a seasoned pro, our podcast is your go-to resource for honest conversations, expert insights, and real-life experiences. So grab a friend, settle in, and get ready to be inspired. This is the NFP Podcast. So let's get started with our topic for today. I think before we do our stories, kind of about like our experience with NFP, our personal stories, we can do that as like kind of the next episode. I wanted to just start with general, what is NFP? And kind of what we think of, like that way we can define it as we move forward. And when we say NFP, what do we mean by that? Because with NFP, I think in this realm of not using artificial means to avoid pregnancy, there are a lot of different terms. So there's fertility awareness method, and that denotes a specific sexual behavior. And NFP, I think, really denotes a very specific sexual behavior as well. So that's kind of like, that was my thought, was to really set the stage and form a context around what we'll be talking about. The USCCB website, and I'll link this in the notes for the show. We'll link our resources here, but they give a really beautiful definition, I think, because it frames it in its totality. So I'll read it and then we'll kind of break it down.
Okay.
So it says, God designed marriage as an intimate partnership of life and love. And in God's design, marriage is a unique union of one man and one woman for the whole of life. Marriage is oriented to the good of the spouses and to the creation and nurture of new life. Making decisions, therefore, about when and how many children to have in marriage is a sacred responsibility that God has entrusted to husband and wife. This is the foundation of what the church calls responsible parenthood. The call to discern God's will for your marriage while respecting his design for life and love. And then it goes on to kind of give you two different bullet points. And so the first one is, and that paragraph to me is just like, it's perfect. It sums everything up. And from that understanding of what sex is and what marriage is, then you move into, okay, what is natural family planning? Because the church's teaching is not natural family planning. The church's teaching is openness to life. It's marriage is for the bonding of the spouses and the procreation and education of children. So natural family planning is a tool that couples can use to help achieve the ends of marriage, of having children, spacing them to avoid or trying to achieve in ways that are respecting of the man and the woman and the marital embrace. The other thing before I read this bullet point too that I like is that it starts perfectly, which is framing it in our understanding of who God is. And that's why this matters so much. The bullet point that it's good here. This is what natural family planning is in this context. It's an umbrella term that's used for certain methods of family planning to achieve and avoid conception. These methods are based on the observation of naturally occurring signs. And then it also says symptoms, which I think is funny, but signs, symptoms of fertile and infertile phases of a woman's menstrual cycle. Some natural methods include the use of monitors to understand your time of fertility. Married couples use NFP to postpone conception, abstain from intercourse and genital contact during the fertile phase of the woman's cycle. No drugs, devices, or surgical procedures are to be used to avoid a pregnancy or to achieve a pregnancy. And married couples, that's not true. Drugs can be used. We don't want artificial means like in vitro fertilization or IUI, procedures that take out the sexual act. So conception has to take place in the sexual act. Married couples who use NFP to attempt a pregnancy make use of the fertile window, the optimal time for conception that it is most likely. So that's my thought and definition for that. So any thoughts, Emily?
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And I think when you were talking about, the way God designed everything, it matters to him what we do. Like it matters. And just like everything else, right? And so he wants this to be expressed in such a way within a marriage that it matters to him. And so anyway, when I was thinking about just NFP in general, yes, now, like you said, the church does not call us to NFP. But I do think that it's a component of our married vocation. And whether or not you practice meaning like follow those signs and symptoms to a T and all that stuff, I don't think that necessarily, I don't want to say matters, because some couples agree to different things, right? But I think the education and the knowledge of our bodies, I think we are called to that. And so that I feel like is a component to our vocation. And then with that, just naturally planning your family is part of that. Like it all goes together. So when I think of NFP, yes, we're talking about the different natural methods that you can use to monitor your cycle as a woman. But also, if you take just the curriculum part out of it, like it really, there really is a component to what the words mean too. Like we are called to naturally plan our families. And yes, we're not, the plan so often does not go the way that we think, right? Like planning is kind of, it's kind of silly if you think about it, because if you are following God's plan for us as married couples, then he ultimately is in control. And we know that, or we should know that. And we should, if we are expressing our marital vocation, then he is just as involved in it as the two spouses are. So there is a physiological, natural component, but we are also naturally planning our families with him. And so I don't know, I just think it's part of our vocation altogether, even though there's many couples that practice their Catholic faith, or practice their faith, and they want to practice natural method, or they don't want to contracept, I guess what I'm trying to say. But they may not practice, a form of natural family planning, as far as like they may not chart their cycle. They may not do that. So I think there can be a freedom in that, but I also think that there can be a freedom in knowledge, right? Like the freedom in knowledge, in knowing what our bodies are doing. And so then in turn, perhaps our discernment process each cycle can be a little bit clearer, maybe. I don't know, for lack of a better term. But just the more we know, the more I feel like it can influence our discernment each cycle, our decisions each cycle with our spouse and with God. Like when we're more knowledgeable, and that could involve so many things, right? Just like knowing what our bodies are doing, but then that leads to knowing what our bodies might not be doing. And if we don't know that, if we don't educate ourselves to know what we should see, then that leads to a whole nother component, I guess, of this. But I don't know. When I think about it, not to ramble, but when I think about it, I think about it really being a part of our vocation. And whatever method or not, it doesn't matter, right? But we are called to naturally plan our families with the Lord, So I don't know what I think about it.
The part of what natural family planning affords couples in their communication, and how it can help bond, and how it can make you feel more loved, because natural family planning teaches the spouses about the fertile cycle, and that not just the way the body is created. There are times of fertility and there are times of infertility. And depending on what you discern and what you decide together, and you choose when you engage in sexual intercourse as a couple. And I think when then understand, and women, when they both come in, they both understand, okay, there are times when we will be avoiding, and there are times when we'll be avoiding intercourse, not necessarily trying to avoid pregnancy, but just avoiding intercourse. Like during the menstrual cycle, I don't know people that, really use heavy days of bleeding, let's say, like to have intercourse. And then, people are traveling. There's in-laws are staying in the bedroom next door. Like there are reasons why we do not have intercourse. Someone is sick. There's lots of reasons why we don't have intercourse. And maybe during one of those times where we're not having intercourse, one person, right, one of the spouses has a desire to have intercourse during that time. But out of love and out of just the nature of reality of the moment, like, okay, doing that is not going to be feasible, nor would I want to demand that of my spouse because they're not feeling well or because whatever it is, right? That speaks such a great act of love to say, okay, me as a rational, reasonable human being, I can take my will and choose the best option, choose the good here, which is what we believe is freedom. Really, that's ultimately what freedom is. And that to me is what I love so much about natural family planning. And I think sometimes is overlooked. And I think couples that's just like a part of their marriage because they've had it since the beginning. And when they were engaged, this is just what it's been like, or they had a conversion, right? And now they're just on the same page and they know what sex is and they know what it's for and they can abstain and they can come together and they can do all the things. I think we kind of take for granted that, there's a lot of relationships out there that's actually not happening right now. That there are, and I would say, and because I know of it, like there are Christian relationships, Christian marriages where there's an understanding of sexual intercourse that it has to happen a certain frequency, right? And a lot of that's fear motivated, Emily, and that just breaks my heart to think like, being told from a pulpit that if you don't have intercourse with your husband a certain number of times a week, they may stray. And it says it in the Bible. If you come, stay apart for a short period of time, but then come back together. I'm like, what an abuse of scripture and what an abuse of your position. And I'm trying to give the benefit of the doubt to say like, maybe they learned that, they really believe that to be true. But to me, I just find that just sad, right? Because that's more of a use of the other that, okay, if you have this, it can't be true. People actually, mind-blowing, don't have to have sex. Ever. Right. And they can be healthy and happy and fine. Like not fine, flourishing. They can have a full life without this. We're not advocating for sexless marriages, mind you. Right. But it's just to say that you can go lengths of time without engaging in intercourse and have a very, very close relationship.
Fruitful. Yeah.
Very fruitful. And I think that's one of the other beautiful aspects of the approach to sex that's encompassed in natural family planning is that it demands of the couples to talk and to be vulnerable and to share and all these things that are really hard to do, but you're married to the person. So hopefully you feel comfortable doing that with them. And then if not, I don't know about you, Emily, but I have worked with a lot of couples and it's sometimes been in engagement, pre-Cana situations. Especially early on, I remember I was like knocking them out because there was a church in Tampa and there were just tons of people getting married there. And so I would have multiple people to come through. And I have this very, very vivid memory of this couple that came in, beautiful couple. He was handsome. She was gorgeous. I think they were very affluent professionals in the Tampa Bay area. And they were sitting there and I was a zealous new NFP teacher. So, I'm like, share this with the world, the best news ever. And so I'm going through the introductory session with them and I'm just like, so happy and cheering my vibe. And the girl is also like, oh, wow, like this is really exciting and beautiful. She's buying into it. But she's like, she's understanding like, wow, this is like the beauty, Anyway, and he is just looking more and more horrified. And I remember thinking, just feeling sad after they left. And I don't know what happened. I mean, I'm assuming they went on to get married. I don't know. But yeah, that just made me sad because in his mind, I think I judged him a little bit. Like, what a jerk. Like, what a jerk. You just want to use her and have sex whenever you want. And then, as I matured and had more experience, and I thought, but that's what he's been conditioned to know. I mean, that's our culture. Sex is on demand, and fertility is an inconvenience, because then I can't have sex whenever I want, because I don't always want to have a baby. So let's put you on the pill, my beloved, so that way we can just have sex whenever. So anyway, I feel like that to me is one of the most beautiful aspects. This is an important aspect of NFP, Emily. And I think because, Joey is not perfect by any means, but I definitely never feel like I'm going to be used,
Oh, yeah, no.
And that is, and that is amazing, because, because that's not always the case, So,
right. And I tend to forget that
all the time. Yeah.
Right. But I think that's common. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's something I don't want to take for granted. And that's what I think, even just doing this podcast and talking on the regular about NFP reality of relationships right now, and why this is sticky. Because that's hard, right? That's hard if you are in a relationship right now where you have learned this truth and this beauty, and you realize one of the persons in the relationship is not on board. That it hurts at a level, and I want to acknowledge that that's so important. That's so important to recognize that it hurts at a level, because that level is identifying what John Paul II identified, which is not to use someone. Use is not love, and you feel used, and that's the feeling. You maybe can't put words to it, but that's what it is. It's the feeling of being used, and no one wants to feel used.
Right. And that's why sex is another reason. That's why sex is designed for marriage, right?
Yes.
Because how often that, I'm guessing, would be the feeling when that's experienced outside of marriage.
Yes.
And so to feel that within a marriage, that's not the way we were created. That's not what we were created for. And so that is contrary to what God wants for us, which is free, total, faithful, and fruitful. And so that would be a very deep wound.
Yes.
Hard.
Yeah. But redeemable. But totally redeemable, because
absolutely.
God is not not beyond any of those wounds.
Right.
But I know, I think we both share, this passion for sharing this with younger people, younger women, younger men who just, they just don't, because that's the time when you want to learn.
Yes.
Trust us. I feel like every couple, if I could give them a microphone and say, what would you want to tell the younger version of yourself? If now you're trying to learn this, it's learn it early. Just know your body. No, for girls, it's know your body, and I think I would say, and for men, it's know yourself and know about her body. Know the truth. Because then you can adjust your expectations, But if you're grown up thinking this is just, whatever, whoever, however, buy it. Oh, then you're going to be radically shaken up when you hit reality, because that's not reality.
That's the influence that we're given from anywhere you turn, right? That is what is driven into somebody as they're growing up. At least that was my experience. And so if I could go back and learn this as a teenager, as a woman, developing into a woman, my life would definitely be completely different. But at the same time, like we were just saying, God redeems everything, and we are here and who we are at this time in our lives because of so many of those things and those components of not knowing.
Right.
And so perhaps that makes us more of an advocate for it now.
Right. NFP is sex as it au naturel. There are no means to avoid that are barrier methods. There's no pills, there's no hormones, nothing. And then same thing for trying to, now a little bit different for trying to achieve, right? We haven't, I guess we've been talking a little bit more about the avoiding part of it. NFP can also be used to help you achieve a pregnancy. And that goes back to just the foundation of NFP methods, which is knowing how the body works And this is bringing in the medical component, right? The medical community of understanding the human body, seeing infertility as a disease and a disorder that needs to be corrected. So something that is not functioning well in the body needs to be made right so that it can function well, so that a couple can achieve. And then this is, I think, the other part. Well, did you want to say anything about that, Emily? And then I'll jump in with the last.
No, I agree. I agree with all of that. Yeah.
So then the last part of that I was going to say is that it just leads to our greater understanding as Christians of marriage, and God's plan is that when we stand at the altar and we give our life to God through this vocation, it is literally, I was explaining this to a young couple that was going to be getting married. I was like, this is how I envision it. It's like this piece of paper, and on the top it says, I do, and then it's blank, and then you sign on the bottom, and you have no freaking idea what he's going to fill in the middle. Because you don't. How many kids? What does God have in store with us? And he has never told me what is coming, ever.
Right.
Never.
Right.
Also, part of NFP is we can think, okay, we don't want to have any kids. I met couples that we don't want to have any kids, and then they have 7 or 8 or more kids, or they've got 2 kids, or you don't know. You don't know what he's going to have in store. Yeah. And he's not going to spring it on you, right? You have to work in partnership with him. But you just don't know, how it's going to unfold. And so I think that's a big foundation of approaching sex from an NFP mindset.
I agree. And I also think we all have different temperaments, right? Some people like more control of anything in their life, regardless of sexuality, right? Yeah. And so other people, like, I think about it, and I think about, I love surprises. I'm not talking about surprises like pregnancy surprises. I'm just talking about in general. So when I think about the component of your fertility as a couple, which, by the way, is a very short window of your overall life if you're blessed to have a long life, it can be very surprising. Like, what does the Lord have in store for us? Is most likely, in my experience, just as you said, I'm far from sainthood. But God doesn't, in my experience, most things aren't ever just completely a cakewalk, a complete easy, I'm just going to walk into this and this is how it's going to be. And so in order to increase in trust and to grow in that holiness, that takes a lot of vulnerability with your spouse, with God, the three of you. And so to kind of see what he has in store for you, looking at my life, where I am now, like I'm in such a, place of gratitude. And I tried to be in that space even before, even along the journey that we went through. But to think about just even the next stage of our life, hopefully, whatever that involves, like the surprise excites me. And so if I would have had that mentality just from the beginning, I think that, I think that would have helped. I don't know. I just think, like I said, everybody's temperament is different. So, but when I think about what God has in store, I remember priests telling me, it'll always be better than you expect. Just like you said, Bishop Barron says, your story's boring. And so why don't you let God in there? And it'll always be better than you expect. And I found that to be true.
I agree. And that doesn't always mean, and this is again part of being a Christian, that doesn't always, we're not being like Pollyannic either, to think like, oh, it's just going to be rainbows and butterflies. Like, no, I don't know what's going to come. We don't know a hardship that's going to come, any of those things. And that's where, again, I say, like, having the middle that's not filled in, we don't know. And so having a marriage that has as much intimacy and connection and ability to share, I forget, someone said this, and it's so obvious, but it's like your spouse is the only female member you ever get to choose. And so, yes, like I remember thinking before I got married, I remember hearing that, and it was just like, duh, yeah, of course, yes, you're right. It's the only one you get to
feel obvious, but we don't think about it.
No, and this is again why people are dating and then they're getting engaged and then they come for an NFP talk, right? That's normally how it works nowadays for most people that are getting married in the church. That's how it works.
Yes.
And to the extent that they get any NFP instruction about everything that we're even just talking about in this short conversation,
right?
It's like, but all that, and then to be released into marriage, it's like, but you have to spend some time on this. Like, this is such a rock of a relationship, a marital relationship, to be on the same page. I'm sure, we'll share more about our stories, but I just wanted to say really quickly on that note is that was one of the best things about meeting Joey when I did, was we just talked about that right away. And it was like, are we on the same page here? Yes or no? Because when we were dating, we heard about all the, it was pretty common to be like, okay, this group of dating Catholics are for birth control and these ones are not. So depending on where you are, that's the pool you want to pull from. And I was like, let's just pull from this pool. Because it seems like, obviously you want to have more in common with your spouse. But it's like, if I don't have this foundational understanding together, this is going to be hard. Like, we have that foundational understanding and marriage is hard. So I cannot, imagine if we didn't. Like that one more thing we have to like work through. I'm like, no, if we can just take something off the table to make, now we don't bicker about that. Now we bicker about really stupid things that don't matter. But because you can't get around that, I guess. But yeah. So
right. God uses everything and God redeems everything. And whether we see that redemption in this life or the next is one thing. But in those times where he does allow us the grace to see it in this life, it is really beautiful to have a little glimpse into what he was doing, even in those moments that felt like really hard, and carrying your cross. And, we're called to carry our cross, whatever that is, whether that's within our, when it comes to our fertility, or whether that's something else as a component of our life and our marriage. And so we can't just expect for things to be like we were just saying, like rainbows and kittens, when we approach anything.
Exactly. Yes.
And so
that's such a good point.
And that's scary. It can be scary, but that's where you have to the trust.
Okay. Yeah. And that's true, because who knows, in different seasons of marriage, maybe things will be harder, and then things, will get easier, and they'll be on to the next thing. So
right.
Yeah.
Right.
NFP, I definitely don't ascribe anymore. I think in the beginning, when I was first learning about NFP, I definitely drank the Kool-Aid of like, this is the best thing ever. And if you just practice NFP, like your marriage will be wonderful and perfect. And
right.
I was like, no, not really. Like once I kind of understood more about the meaning of the cross, the meaning of the sacrament. Like again, this is a tool. This is a component. This is an aspect of marriage.
It's a tool.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It is. And right. Yeah. And each couple, once again, just thinking about all the couples that I've talked to, or and not necessarily, worked with, because what I'm about to say would be people that I wouldn't be working with, or that wouldn't be practicing, any specific methods. But so I realize that, there are lots of couples that come at this with many different ideas.
Right.
All of those, I think the common thread is open to life, right? Whatever. Whatever the Lord wants in that instance. And so to be able to express here, you can be open to life and know what your body's doing and discern what you're being called to do every cycle. And to me, that's very important. You can also be open to life, hopefully know what your body's doing. And maybe that discernment is just completely, I don't want to say that. I was going to say completely leaving it up to God, because I don't want it to sound like one is more trusting,
right,
or one is better, because that's not the case. I just think what I'm trying to express is I think every couple, whatever they decide, their natural way of family planning can look different.
Yes. Yes.
And that's okay.
Yes.
And that's okay.
That is 100%.
Okay.
Yes. That's being called to stand. No two saints are the same.
Right.
No two saints are the same. God brought you together in your marriage. He has a plan for your marriage. And that's, I guess that's something that we can use to help wrap up a little bit too. But another, I think, important part of NFP, or understanding of NFP, the understanding of when we say, Holy Mother Church's teaching about openness to life. The church, no priest has ever said anything to me. I don't think I'll ever hear a person that is rightly understanding the church teaching ever say, you have to have this many kids, because they don't know.
No.
They would not say that
No.
because they have no idea. Again, the paper, all the gray area. They have no idea. No idea. Just like when we work with couples that come to us with infertility issues, I pray their heart longs for a child. The woman wants pregnant so badly. I have no idea. I teach NFP. I am not God. I cannot make you pregnant. I don't know. Sure. Maybe you're called to adopt and then foster, and then you'll have a baby, or maybe you and your husband are pouring yourselves into your community, and you're, generously giving of all your time and your energy, like a married couple does. We don't know, and so I hope that's encouraging to people to say, no one should be judging anyone by looking, right? We should be judging, right? But judging by the family size, to say, oh, this family is better than this family, because you don't know what's going on, right? We don't know what's going on. And I do hope, though, when we do see large families, that we do praise them for their generosity, because anyone that, even if you just have one kid, you know how hard it is. So then you get a family with like 10 kids, and you're like, that couple is so generous, which is not. I thought about this, Emily. Sorry, one little anecdote. I was at the pool, and there was a mom in the water. She was about ready to give birth. I mean, she was like busting at the seams. Yeah, she had five kids, 8 and under of them. And she had 5 kids 8 and under, or 6 kids 8 and under. And we were in the pool, and they were rowdy, right? They were going all over. She had, I think, half of her kids were in floaties, right? So they couldn't really themselves. But man, I just watched her in awe. And I did, like, finally I stopped staring at her, and I like went over and asked her to help when she was getting out of the pool. And then I like to watch other people watch her. And I could just see like these, like, everyone has these, like, it's so funny when you see other people look at big families, they like have this horror face. Like, oh my gosh, like, why would you? It's awful, And I used to think, like, okay, that's awful that you would make that face. But now I kind of think it's funny. So I'm like, that just means that you get it, that it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But instead of the horror face and just thinking, you're crazy, lady, because that's what all they look like. It's just like, wow, like, better you than me, like, better you than me. Is to think, like, really what I'm thinking, if I have that, really, I think I'm like, I could be wrong, but I'm really thinking underneath it is almost a jealousy of, like, an awareness that I'm not that generous. I don't want to do that, because I enjoy my time. I enjoy my lifestyle. I enjoy my this. I enjoy my this. Like, that woman probably is very stressed. I don't want to do this. But she didn't look stressed. Her kids were great. And she just looks so calm and, like, not out to help her. And then I saw her have the baby. And so anyway, she's so sweet too, Emily. She's just really sweet. So I held the baby, because she was trying to give the baby to one of her little kids to hold so she could wrap themselves in a towel. So I held the baby after she'd had the baby, and we were just chatting. It turns out she only had 2 biologicals. The rest of them were all adopted. And I was like, wow, her and her husband. Wow. You're so generous. And she was so humble and sweet. But yeah, I feel like that's, kind of like a takeaway, right? It's just, whenever you see parents, not even a lot of kids, just, it is hard, and it takes generosity, and doing the best you can.
And to think about, obviously, there's so much about that family life that we don't know, right? What brought them to the decisions of all of that.
Yes.
And I think about, and I often say this to couples, if you are living your vocation as a couple, if you are open to life, if you are discerning every cycle, if you are involving God in your family planning, your natural family planning, no matter how many kids you have, no matter your fertility, it's never going to be easy. It's just not. You might not struggle to achieve pregnancy. You may struggle to achieve pregnancy. You might experience pregnancy loss. You may experience think that, with such grace, there is always, most of the time in my experience, there's typically suffering and grace. It all goes together. And if you're living that part of your marriage in such a way that is free, total, but if you're living in such a way that's free, total, faithful, and fruitful, you just never know what every single couple, every single family is experiencing when it comes to that component of their marriage.
It's true.
And so we have to give people grace. And so, yeah, we just never know what anyone is going through. It's all so personal. There are common threads to experiences for sure. And that allows us to be empathetic and you know, connect with people, which thankfully that is the case. But also, you just never know what that looks like for each couple if they're really truly living their vocation.
That's so true. So true.
Yeah.
All right, and let's wrap up for today, and then we'll come back and continue if we have anything else we want to touch on about this specific topic. We'll do a part 2, and then we'll dive into maybe we'll wrap up in the next one and then kind of start diving into our stories. Okay. All right. Sounds good. I'll talk to you later.
Bye. Yeah. Okay, bye.
That wraps up another episode of the NFP Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you found our discussion enlightening and empowering. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear from you. Please connect with us by sending us an email with your questions and stories to thenfpshow@gmail.com. We'll be back next week with more insights, tips, and heartfelt conversations about natural family planning. Until then, love responsibly.